Hi guys, welcome to Engelgeist. This is Dan. Thank you so very much for tuning in. For those of you that are new, welcome. For those of you that are returning, welcome back. For those of you that support me over on Patreon, thank you so very much for your subscriptions. If you're interested in subscribing to the channel on a monthly basis, you would go to patreon.com, choose a subscription level, and over there, first you would search Engelgeist, then choose a subscription level, and over there you would get special readings that are available only over on Patreon every month. Also, it's a great way to support the channel financially to help, value my work, and it helps to keep me doing this. So I greatly appreciate that. If you're interested in booking a private reading with me, I'm always available for those. You can ask any questions or direct questions to the Facebook business page. Please feel free to go over and like and follow that page if you're watching this on YouTube. Vice versa, if you're watching this on Facebook, please go over and or subscribe to the YouTube channel so you get notified over there too. This is the Sunday forecast for the week. It kind of is a macrocosm reading. It sort of doubles as the Sunday reading, but also it shows us like what's going on throughout the week. Each of the larger cards will represent a day or two of this week. Sometimes 3, you may experience one of these cards, or you may experience all of these cards. It really is dependent on your path and trajectory. So kind of take what you need and leave the rest. There will be clarifier cards to help deepen the information. The reading is a broad spectrum reading intended for the greater collective. Therefore, when and what information comes out, if it doesn't match up with your life or anything that you're dealing with right now, that's completely fine. It doesn't mean anything's wrong or broken. You're not doing anything wrong. You just might be working on something else different than what the majority of people who watch this video may be working on, okay? The other thing that I should say too is this video is originally created for February 7th, Sunday, through February 13th, Saturday. It is not only set for that date. I believe that Spirit has ways of finding the message and getting them to us when we need them. So if you're seeing this on a date that doesn't fall within that time frame, that doesn't mean you have to turn the video off. It may still fit to your situation as you're seeing it. So please take that into account. If you do decide to make any personal decisions in your life, in your day-to-day life after having watched any of my videos, know that these decisions are 100% your responsibility. Always use your own highest intelligence and intuition when making these decisions. And never take anything that I say over that of a business professional, like a doctor, a lawyer, or a therapist. Always listen to what they're telling you first and foremost. And then, listen to your own intelligence, your own intuition. Use my readings to sort of help support what you may already know, or to validate what you had already sort of maybe sussed out to be the truth. Beyond that, don't allow these videos to necessarily make the decisions for you, is kind of what I'm saying. So they're here to support you, but not necessarily take away your free will or your right to, sort of choose your path. All right, so let's get into this and see what the cards have to say today. I feel really spacey this morning. I don't know what's going on with me. I feel really out of it. It's weird. So hopefully this reading will make sense. I just feel off or something. I can't seem to get into my body this morning. All right, so we have, this would make sense. The 7 of Cups. We saw this card yesterday in the clarifiers for the end of the week for Saturday's reading. So if we're stuck in this confusion, or this clarifier has sort of stuck its head out into our space, we may have been leaning more towards this card. Cups would be the element of emotions or water, right? 7, in this deck, it's called Debauch. And this deck is a little bit different than some of the more traditional tarot decks, but this is a very prolific, sort of famous deck. It's a staple amongst tarot readers, so it shouldn't be ignored. This is called Debauch. Debauch means sort of sinking to lower levels, and when I look at this, everything's sort of melting. To me, it feels like we might be wilting in the face of adversity. We might just find ourselves being weak, confused, emotionally distraught, things like that. That would be sort of this card. This is not necessarily a permanent thing. It being what do they call it? Not a court card. it just being a numbered card, right? I don't know the correct word right now, but the fact that it's just 7 of cups means that it's transitory. It's not going to hold forever. But if we're feeling like we're wrapped up in the flow of our emotions, if we're wrapped up in the flow of the behaviors of others, if we're being rocked a little bit or challenged in ways that don't feel comfortable, I would suggest that, you're exactly where you need to be if if that's what you're experiencing. It may not feel pleasant, but it is what it is, right? And I think that 7s also come with a conscious choice that we have to make. So we might need to remove ourselves or consciously move ourselves away from these feelings of confusion, from these feelings of this could be loss, this could be self-criticism, this could be just things that are getting us down in some way, shape, or form. It's not allowing us to sort of really rise to the occasion. It doesn't necessarily, like I said, it's not permanent, and it doesn't have to be as overpowering or, be all end all. It just may be some sort of, struggle we're going through that we have to pass through to allow ourselves to get beyond it. Does that make sense? Let's look at the clarifiers for this. We have the 2 of discs, which is change. This would be the 2 of pentacles. I love that there's a balance to this. This card is always about balance. I love that we have, similar to like in other decks, the Ouroboros, which is kind of this snake that's got a crown that's eating its own tail, right? It's the cycle of kind of keeping everything in balance. In this deck, when I think of this card, I think of balance, right? This card here in this deck is called change. So we may need to find some change around whatever we're feeling emotionally, wherever we're feeling challenged, right? Or we may need to pursue that change and maintain that balance. I'm not going to leave the balance aspect of the 2 of pentacles on the table. I am going to say that I feel like that balance needs to be there or needs to be accounted for or maintained during this time while we're struggling with this 7 of cups. If we're feeling like a little bit out of sorts or out of our element, not our right self, that's okay. I think that through work and dedication is kind of the feeling that I'm getting, because that snake that's sort of swirling around there, to me, it feels like he's working towards something. He's trying to figure something out. We do have the balance between the yin and yang symbols, all of that sort of stuff. And we have, he's wearing that crown. So I feel like there is some sort of knowledge or some sort of awareness, some sort of intelligence that we are gaining from this process, even if it might be a bit uncomfortable or a little bit of work. Let's go to the next card. Oh, Jesus. So we have the 10 of Swords. This is ruin. 10s offer, and they call this ruin. This deck, I've got to say, is a little bit, I don't want to say harsh, but it's very in your face. It doesn't mince words. When I look at this card, I feel like we've got something that we need to sort of either separate from or let go of. 10s are ultimately a closing of the chapter, an ending of the story. There might be something that we've been struggling with emotionally that we really need to maintain some semblance of balance. We need to change, and we need to sort of understand that it has either beat us, it has knocked us back. There's no sort of fighting it anymore. There's no changing it. It is what it is. We're going to have to kind of, I think in a way, succumb to it. I'm not saying that it means that there's no hope, because I feel like that 2 of Pentacles and the word change brings me this idea of hope. There is something that we can work our way through this, or there is that snake, to me, he's sort of flexible. Snakes are about transmuting, transmutation. And so if we transmute our situation or we learn from it, right, we take it in full acceptance and we adapt within it, right? Kind of like how the snake can kind of slither, right? Where he can bend his body and contort in ways to sort of meet the needs so that he can move forward. There is an option to move forward through this, maybe this difficult time, but I think we have to admit some semblance of defeat through this 10 of Swords. The traditional 10 of Swords is a man laying on the ground with all of these swords in his back. And to me, even though it is a defeat or it is a really sad moment, right, or a giving up sometimes or a letting go completely, there's a freedom that comes with it on the other end that we have to acknowledge. And I think that ultimately there's this freedom that we need to let go of from this debauch or this 7 of Cups. Some of you might be doing things that you're very well aware through that 2 of Pentacles that whatever it is that you're doing, it's just not working and hasn't been for a while. And so you're struggling within your mind to stop the behavior or stop the actions, stop the activity, whatever it may be for you. And to do that, you have to create that change. You have to work at it. You have to maintain that balance. You have to sort of make that your priority. So let's look at the third clarifier. Okay. So this is the Nine of Swords. This is cruelty. So the Nine of Swords usually indicates nightmares, anxieties, sometimes worries, so much so that they've just ramped up all around us and they've kind of messed us up. They've created a reality that isn't necessarily friendly. When I look at the redness of the Ten of Swords and the Nine of Swords, to me, there's like sort of like an inflammation and anger, even maybe here for some of you, that kind of maybe goes back and forth between anger and then depression. That Seven of Cups also would indicate depression to me, everything melting in blue and green to me. That gives me this sort of vibe of low vibration or maybe feeling disheartened. I don't think that all is lost here. What I do think with the 9 and 10 of Swords there is it's about something in our mind or in our way of thinking that we really need to separate ourselves from or free ourselves from. Ideally, if we remain somewhat grounded, we work hard at it, we don't give up, we can get beyond this. But we also need to. The 9 and 10 are very much personally about, 9s to me are about personal completion, 10s are about completions for ourselves and the environment, right? So when I look at those two swords cards coming in, it tells us we need to sort of set ourselves free from whatever it is that we might be doing and acting in, engaging in that's no longer serving us. And we know it's no longer serving us with that Seven of Cups as the lead card. We can feel it, we can sense it. It's like, I'm just going to use my own personal life as an example. There's a situation going on right now in my life where if I wanted to worry about it, I certainly could. But is that worry really solving the situation for me? Not really. So with the Seven of Cups, I could easily get into the worry, easily get into the heaviness, easily get into the sadness or the depression or the defeatist attitude that goes on with all of that. But really what that's doing is it's exacerbating the problems, bringing on the Nine of Swords for me, which would be about torture, anxiety, needless worry, that sort of a thing. And it would bring me to the state of the Ten of Swords, which is like, there's no winning. I would have to let it go. And in letting it go, maybe I would achieve that Two of Pentacles where I need to maintain that balance amidst sort of the fears or the trappings or machinations of my mind where it wants to say, well, what if this happens? What if this happens? Well, all of that is a what if, right? So each one of you might be experiencing this around a different situation. But whatever it is that you're experiencing this around, or whatever you feel challenged by, confused by, stuck in, mired in, that sort of a thing, you really need to find a way to find balance with it, movement away from it or through it, ideally. That's the snake energy that I'm getting in that Two of Pentacles. Finding that balance and not letting it stop you. Keeping it sort of moving as best you can. If you find yourself getting stuck in the thoughts or the sort of struggles of it, that would be that 10 and 9 kind of at work. But ultimately we have to be grateful for those struggles to a certain degree, because those struggles are going to bring us to the other side and allow us to release it ultimately. And that's what we need to do. So let's look at the midweek card. Okay, beautiful. So this is the clarity that we seek from the fight of this 10 and 9, right? This is the Ace of Swords. We're talking about a new way of thinking, a new way of being, especially around the mind. So I love that we see this 9 and 10, which after the 9 and 10 comes the Aces, right? They start the cycle all over again. So there's a new dawn by the midweek for those of us. It's certainly mentally, right? Where we're looking at things either through a different perspective, a different sightline, a different realization, whatever it is, it's new. I think we're in acceptance or gratitude for it. It should be placing us first through this perception. That would be the Ace energy of this number 1, right? We want to sort of gear our thoughts towards clarity, truth, honesty, but with ourselves at the forefront, making us sort of the priority, right? In our thoughts, in our way of thinking. Are we being kind to ourselves? Are we being fair to ourselves? Are we being honest with ourselves? When we're doing this, I think that we allow ourselves to find this clarity that we didn't maybe have in the earlier part of the week, because we might have felt a little bit more muddled, not only in our thoughts, but also in our emotions. So I'm not mad at this as the midweek card. I feel like clarity comes to us around this situation. We may need to depart from a situation, and that would be the 9 and 10 in the cards previous. We might find ourselves having to separate completely from a person, place, or thing. But if we do that, we do obtain this clarity that puts ourselves first and our truth first. And we have to be like, stand fast in that, stand sort of pure in that, be honest with that, and bring about this new beginning that is going to happen for us in the midweek. Now let's look at the clarifiers. Okay, our friend the devil. Yay. So the devil to me, it's major arcana. So coupled with this ace, I feel like the midweek might be important. We'll see what the other two clarifiers are, but the devil would be Capricorn energy. The devil also would be about wherever it is that we kind of don't serve ourselves, right? The devil wants to show us exactly where we are kind of cutting corners or cheating ourselves or cheating others, or where we may be being cheated, right? The devil wants to hold us back. He'd rather us stay angry. He'd rather us stay resentful. He'd rather us stay lazy or procrastinate, right? So we may have to sort of I kind of feel like with this Ace of Swords, it almost looks like an internal battle between these two cards in the midweek. I like that the Ace of Swords is our main card for this week, meaning I think that clarity will be attained. Will it be attained at I don't want to say at a price, but do we have to sort of learn something about ourselves that we may not like, learn something about a situation that we may not like? Probably, right? The devil can indicate sort of insecurities, addictions, areas where we are not, and it doesn't have to be us either. The devil can also be sort of people outside of ourselves, right? Or situations outside of ourselves that just aren't healthy, that it creates in us an opportunity to act out on our worst behaviors, be that fear, be that anxiety, be that anger, where we're lashing out of spite. These are things that we don't want to do, is kind of the feeling that I'm getting. And with this clarity of the Ace of Swords, it's like we need to find a new way to interact with these sort of things. These things may come on a little bit stronger in the midweek, right? If they're outside of ourselves, or they could be challenges within ourselves. But because we're finding this Ace of Swords energy, this clarity, this truth, this honesty, and this new way, ideally, of interacting or being with ourselves, the devil may want to challenge us in even stronger ways. So be prepared for that. I also think that with him being major arcana, it will be more obvious, it will be more intense, but it also will make the sort of payoff and the strength of this Ace of Swords all the more worth it or worthwhile. Let's look what we have here. We have the Queen of Cups. I'm not mad at her showing up. She would be the element of water. She would be cups upon cups. She would be emotion. She would also be our more intuitive, sort of subtle psychic self. We want to touch base with her. I feel like she comes in and I feel like she cools off this devil, right? The devil associated with like hell and brimstone and fire and all of that sort of stuff. The Queen of Cups can be a female outside of us that is a water sign. That would be Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. She could be coming to our assistance to nurture us, to help us, to kind of help us see the way. If this is not an outside person, this could be ourselves, our own emotions, our own emotional nurturing self, wanting to kind of carry ourselves through whatever devil-like situations we could be facing, whatever challenges that are in our face that might be, wanting us to sink back to whatever we were in the early part of the week, that Seven of Cups confusion. It wants us to stay sort of stuck in that debauch. Like, think about the devil. The devil and debauchery are like perfectly aligned and in communion with one another. So that devil doesn't necessarily want us to reach for anything more, but I feel like the Ace of Swords and the Queen of Cups do, right? And those are maybe aspects within us that it's that clarity of emotion, that clarity of thinking that we need to sort of stay seated in, and let go of old ways of thoughts or old worries, old anxieties, or old situations that aren't necessarily giving us the freedom or the what's the word? I don't know if it's freedom, but it's about the giving us the opportunity to sort of be who we are, who we want to be, how we want to feel, that kind of a thing. Okay. So I love this. This is the Eight of Wands. This is swiftness. I love the rainbow. This to me is about moving quickly in a certain direction. I feel like with this Ace of Swords and this Eight of Wands, there is this quickness of spirit. Wands is the element of fire and the spirit. We see the sign, I believe, for Mercury and Sagittarius, which would be about expansion and communication, communicating within ourselves. Eights to me feel like about finding that balance again, because we also see in that too, we see that snake in that 8 formation in the early part of the week, right? That kind of reciprocating energy. I feel like with this Queen of Cups and the Ace of Swords, our mind and our emotions need to be clear as we face situations that may challenge us. We need to move through them quickly, deftly, with that sort of swiftness that we see in that Eight of Wands. Eight of Wands to me usually is a very positive card, especially like with this rainbow. I feel like it's very positive. It feels to me like we need to be direct. We need to be clear, make clear decisions at the midweek, honest decisions at the midweek. Trusting our emotions, trusting our intuition. That would be the Queen of Cups involved in all of this. And we may have to make some hard decisions. That would be the devil, right? The devil could be like, some of you could be having to decide, okay, am I going to deal with this family member anymore and their bullshit? I may not be able to. I may have to move away or step away in a very direct and clear, precise manner, right? That's just sort of one scenario I see going on in these cards, because if you don't, you're going to stay in sort of the confusion and the anger and the resentment that we see in the early part of the week, right? For some of you, this could be a job, right? Where it's like, do I leave because I need that money, right? That would be the devil energy. You know, I may not be treated well or whatever. And I'm not saying you need to leave your job, but steps need to be taken or truths need to be told. Emotions need to be felt and acknowledged within ourselves by the midweek so that we can get clearer on what it is we do want so that we can start to move towards that. If we continue to lie to ourselves, we continue to keep ourselves sort of hung up in the balance in a way. Let's go to the end of the week card. Okay. Eight of Cups, indolence. Not my favorite card to see for the end of the week. I feel like this is us fighting against ourselves, fighting against a heaviness or a pressure. Indolence to me feels like not necessarily moving. Eight of Cups usually, to me, feels like being done with a situation and moving away from it completely, right? So when I think of that, ideally we want to move away from this, but I don't like the dark nature of this card. I'm just going to be honest. It feels a little bit depressing, heavy. I like the midweek cards, even with that devil in the middle there. Yes, we're challenged, but I feel like we have the strength around us. We'll have to look at the clarifiers, but to me, this almost feels like we could be getting stuck back into this situation or into some sort of dance that we've already been at that we don't want to be involved in anymore. The Eight of Cups in other traditional decks usually depicts somebody walking away from something, right? There's a sort of a sadness, but they have to do it for their own good or betterment. So there could be some of that, but I feel like there's a sadness to this card that I can't quite shake. So I want to look at the clarifiers and see what's going on here to see if I can get a better gist of what this is. Remember, anything that I predict for the later part of the week in the forecast is always sort of temporary in the sense that we can utilize these cards. If we don't like this indolence, Eight of Cups, we can start to like think about, okay, I want to take that energy that I experienced in the midweek through that Ace of Swords and channel that into the rest of my week. And we can shift these cards through free will and choice. So it's not necessarily that what I'm saying is bound to happen. It's what I'm saying is on the books as, you know, scheduled to happen, but it's not permanently set. Does that make sense? All right, so we have the Priestess. I'm not mad at her showing up. Let's go, girl. This is Piscean energy, which we also, it's funny to me because we have this Piscean energy down there. Do you see that symbol right above the indolence? That, and that's Cups energy too. The High Priestess to me usually represents secrets, spiritual awareness, things like that. She's not always the clearest card to deal with, but she brings with her deep awareness, deep subconscious thinking, deep psychic awareness. There's something going on for us emotionally that we might be doing work on towards week's end. This might actually be to our benefit. We may have to like sort of go this deep to really create the separations that we need or the boundaries that we need, the understanding that we need. I feel like with this particular High Priestess, I feel like she brings a gift with her. She also is giving me a little bit of that Queen of Cups vibe just because her colors are the same, right? So I feel like if we do find ourselves by week's end getting depressed, heavy, caught up emotionally again within said situation, the High Priestess isn't going to stand for it. I feel like she's coming in, like there's a deeper understanding coming in from within us that's saying, no, not today. Like we need to figure this one out so that we can move away from it. Does that make sense? And so let's see what we've got here. We've got the Princess of Cups. I will take it. I believe the Princess is like the King of Cups. To me, this is about staying balanced in love and in those emotions. Because in this deck, if I remember correctly, it goes, how does it go? Knight, Queen, Prince, Princess. So the Princess of Cups is the younger, and I'm just defining this through my own definitions. I don't know if this is exactly how the creator of this deck wanted it used, but I'm going to use it this way. I feel like the Princess has been moved into the position of the King of Cups because she's the youthful embodiment of the feminine aspect. And to me, that is a very powerful energy. So I think that she is sort of that's why they've given her the highest seating as of the court cards in the place of the king. Right? So I feel like there's a youthfulness to her. I feel like there's a fertileness to her. There's an abundance to her. There's an opportunity to be free again, to love again, to connect again in a different way, to ourselves probably more so than anyone else, right? This Eight of Cups to me indicates that we may not be able to share what's going on within ourselves with this Princess of Cups and this High Priestess, but I do feel like these are ultra sort of nurturing, feminine, spiritual, subtle, subconscious energies that are coming at us that we want to utilize to our advantage. They're going to help carry us through whatever this Eight of Cups is. They might also help to sort of heal us as we depart from the situations. This Eight of Cups could signify us being over it and like really ready to make a change or move in a direction that we need to move for our own well-being. I feel like with the Princess of Cups and the High Priestess, it may not all make sense, or we might question some of it, and we're like, is this really the right thing to do? Does this make me an asshole, or am I being a jerk? But ultimately, no, you need to protect yourself. You need to sort of take care of yourself and honor your own emotions, feelings, and inner sort of dialogue first and foremost before giving it to anybody else. Does that make sense? And then the last card, is the Seven of Discs. To me, this is interesting because in this deck it says failure. The Seven of Discs to me is about hard work. There's always that man depicted with that hoe, and I'm not talking about a hooker. I'm talking about an actual hoe or a rake. And he's standing in a field looking at grapes. And it's like, to me, the Seven of Discs is about hard work through like waiting for the harvest, like not quite there yet, right? Putting in the hard work. But this saying failure to me is a little bit dark. I think that this failure to me speaks to the idea that whatever it is that we're sort of dancing around with this week, and like I said, for each one of you, it's going to be something different. If one of you, it's a job. If one of you, it's fear around taking a risk for something. If one of you, it's about a relationship, you know, a love relationship or a familial relationship, whatever it is that you're dancing back and forth with this week, this failure to me speaks to the idea, again, we go back to that Seven of Cups energy at the beginning of the week. We start on a 7, we end on a 7, is this idea that we need to make a conscious choice as to what is best for us. When I look at the totality of these cards, we have the information and the awareness to know when to quit. Are we willing to quit? The failure in this Seven of Pentacles to me speaks to, I almost feel like it's too much of an uphill battle. Like there's not enough, what's the word? Like it doesn't matter what amount of work we put into it. If we're the only one putting work into this situation, it's not ever going to change. And that's the failure aspect. It's not that we're a failure, and it's not that we are going to fail. It feels like maybe this situation, this person, this job, whatever it might be that you're going back and forth with or that you're challenged by, doesn't have the capacity to elevate itself to where you need it to be. That's sort of the feeling that I'm getting. Because the positive cards to me that are in this deck or in this reading speak to this idea that we need to be clear, we need to be honest, we need to be in our emotions, and not in the sad, depressing emotions, which we see in the 7 and 8 of Cups, but in the stronger, more realistic, more what's the word I'm looking for? Like having a dialogue within ourselves. That's the Princess of Cups. That's the High Priestess. That's the Queen of Cups, right? These are the information internally within us that's coming from our higher self through our emotions. I'm not even mad at the 9 and 10 of Swords, because those just tell me that we already know that this is a dead road, or that whatever it is that we're dancing with is only causing us confusion, and it's time to let it go. Are we brave enough to do that is the question. All right, so let's look at the grounding stone for the week. Okay, here's the grounding stone, guys, and it makes complete sense for me. The word is courage. Do we have the courage to change? Do we have the courage to let go of some of the things that we've been operating in for a really long time? That's the 9 and 10 of Swords. That's the 7 of Pentacles. That is even the Devil card, the 8 of Cups, the 7 of Cups. Sometimes it's easier to sort of struggle along with something rather than sort of deal with the truth and the reality of it, because if we change it, we don't know what we're going to have to do or how we're going to have to behave moving into the future. And so I think that this is about finding the courage within ourselves to either step away from something, someone, or some behavior that we do that has not necessarily served us. Ultimately, having this courage will enable the change within us. And I feel like with these cards too, there's deep awareness that comes with these cards or with this week. It may be a little bit of work this week with that 7 and 8 of Cups. And that 7 of Pentacles, the Devil card. Like, it feels to me like this is not maybe the easiest week for us, but I also feel like there's a huge payoff with this week. Courage is a very powerful energy, and when we ground in that and we allow that to be our guide, we can make it through anything and we can accomplish just about anything. So remember that that is your focus for this week, and ground in that and face everything as truthfully and honestly as you can, and allow yourself to grow and learn about who you are and what you're made of and what you deserve as you move through this week. That is your forecast for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.